So this is Fusion, and this is just an example of the things you can create. So this was our robot for this year, for this season. And yeah, so we modeled the entire thing in Fusion, including like the balls, the little foam balls in there and everything. So you can really do a lot with Fusion. And then even after you model, of course, if you wanted to like additively manufacture it, you could 3D print it or use a CNC machine and cut out like the metal parts. So like most of everything here was cut out, like the little side plates that we have here on the side, those were cut out. And this sprocket here was cut out. We laser cut that, and we use our CNC machine to cut out some other parts. And we actually 3D printed some of our parts. It's not on this model, but it's on a different model. So like the design is just one step. You can do so much after. So let me just show another example of like a part that you can create. You can create some really detailed parts in Fusion. So this is an example of a part I've made. Wow. It's just an abstract part, but you can really get into great detail in Fusion. So today I planned for us to kind of practice designing a part. And we're going to be designing a part that I found online. And so this is how the part looks. It's pretty basic. And before that, I'll walk you guys through just some of the functions of Fusion in just a blank design. So if you guys, I don't know if, yeah, when it loads, it should just pop up a screen like this, just blank. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, awesome.
Mine has a grid.
Yeah, that's just that's the origin. So it's like this, right?
No.
A grid like this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
you probably started a new sketch. So does it say finish sketch on the right?
No.
Okay, so that's fine. It might be one of your settings. I might have turned that off, maybe in my settings, I don't remember. That might be one of the grid. Yeah. So do you see this setting down here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you go up there, you can just turn off the grid. So you might have your layout grid on. You could just turn that off if you want.
I know.
Okay.
Not gonna work. So.
All right, so on the left, we have our basic functions. This is on the left is where your objects are going to be stored, and like things like your origins and your sketches. So everything that you create, it's going to be stored on the left. So the first setting down here, if you click on the drop down arrow for document settings, you can change your units. So I think when you first load Fusion, it's going to be in millimeters, and you can change it to inches. And you probably want to use inches most of the time because most things we use are going to be in inches. So if you just click on it.
Just if you upload a model that you make in inches to Thingiverse, it's going to be broken. Just as an FYI. So you need to do everything in millimeters.
Well, yeah, that's if you're like uploading. But if you're gonna, I mean, if you're gonna model something in the real world in inches, you're probably gonna want to use inches.
Yeah, but if you can use millimeters always, you'll get a much more precise unit because the 3D printers and stuff, they're all millimeter based.
Okay.
I mean, everything in 3D printing is all millimeters.
Okay. But yeah, so that's the only setting in document settings, and this just changes the units for just this model. But if you wanted to change it for every model, you can change your default settings up here at the top. So mine has my name, and I'm just going to click on that, and then you can do preferences and you can change that. So here you can change it. It's in units. One of them, yeah, default units. So if you go to default units, you can change your design units. Mine is on inches, and then your manufacturer and your simulation. So also on the left, we have our origin, and you can turn that on or off. So that's the three different axes. So we have our X, Y, and Z, the Cartesian coordinates. And you can just turn those on and off. when you want to create a sketch, you probably want those to be on so you know which plane you're creating your sketch on. And then sketch right here, these are where your sketches are going to be stored. Right now, it doesn't have anything because we haven't created a sketch. But a sketch is just a 2D drawing. And so if you, I'll just do something really quick. If you create a 2D sketch and you finish and you actually turn this into a 3D object. So here I have a rectangular prism here, and it creates a body. So on the left, you can see now that I have a bodies tab open. And so if I click the drop down arrow, I can see that that body is saved in here. So so also another thing is the little eyes that you see onto the left, those are how to turn something on and off. So if you click on the eye and it's kind of faded out now, that means I've turned something off. And if I click it back on, it'll show the body. So you can hide and unhide the body when you want to. So I'm just going to go back. What else? So here on the top, we can see all of our modifiers. So on the left here, we have our create tab. And so that's just how we can create objects. Everything in here will be focused on creating actual solids. To the right, we have our modify. And so this is, again, just modifying your objects. So we have like fillets and chamfers, and we'll get into some of those later on today. And to the right of that, we have our assemblies and how we can create joints. Those are a little advanced. Those are just basically how we can like create like joints to move. So if you wanted to make something to twist, or I don't know, to revolve around something else, you could use assemblies to do that. Our construct, these are how we can make different planes. And so there's a bunch of different options for creating planes. So you can make an offset plane or a tangent plane to a circular object. And then here is inspect. So this is really important. These are one of the more important tools. Inspect basically just allows us to measure objects and to get into more detail of objects. And if you look on the far left and you click this drop down arrow, we can see that we have different tabs. So designing, again, is not the only thing that Fusion does. You can render objects, and that's just kind of creating really, really detailed and high quality pictures of objects. You can like add colors and stuff. You can make animations of objects. If you wanted to make an animation of like your robot, of how it opens and closes or something like that, you could do that there. You can make simulations, and you probably won't use simulations that much. Those are to kind of see like the stresses and the weak points on objects. And then manufacture. Manufacture is pretty important. Here in manufacture, you can do a variety of things, but the two main ones is you can create G-code for a 3D printer or even a CNC machine. So we mostly use it for our CNC machine, and you can create like the cuts and the passes for your object. So I think for here, I have an example. For here, I have already manufactured this object. So if I were to press simulate, I could see this is how the CNC machine would cut it. And so with the CNC machine, the only difference between that and like a 3D printer is that instead of course, adding material, you're taking away material. So that's what this is doing. And if I actually turn on stock, you can see the green is what the printer would start with, and it's cutting pieces out.
Cool.
All right, so, oh yeah, you can also use this if you have a 3D printer, if you wanted to 3D print something. I wouldn't really recommend it because it's still in testing. Like they still haven't fixed everything. It's fairly new, but again, you can use that if you want to. I'd probably use another slicing software. All right, so I'm gonna go back up to design, and I think we can start making our part. So again, this is what we're gonna be designing today. This is just the abstract part, and I found the 2D drawings on the internet, and that's also something you can do in Fusion. You can make 2D drawings. So I'll actually show you the PDF. So if I go, nope, not that one. Here. So the most basic way you can create something in Fusion is just having an actual 2D drawing. So here I have a 2D drawing for this part, the part that is in Fusion that we're gonna make. And this drawing tells you everything that you need to know about how to design this part in a CAD software. So from like the height, the width, the length, where each of the holes are, and how to create this inner part. So let me go back to Fusion. And if you haven't already, just open up a new design tab and let's start making the part. So I've actually uploaded the pictures on here. You don't have to, I just did it so I don't have to go back and forth. But it has 3 different pages and each one kind of goes into more detail with the part. So we're gonna start on page one, sorry. So page 1 tells us the length and the width of our block here and the height of our block here. So it says our width is 1.9 inches and our length is 4 inches. So we're gonna create that. And again, everything in Fusion starts out with a sketch. So if you go up here where it says solid, you're gonna see this little square with a plus sign and that says create sketch. So this is how we create sketches in Fusion. So I'm gonna click that. And when you see that, you should see your origin pop up if you already don't have it on. And if you kind of hover over each plane, it gives you an option to kind of click on it. So you can make a sketch on each of the planes. So you can make it on the X, Y, or Z plane. I'm gonna create mine on the X plane. So this one here on the bottom. So I'm just gonna click on that. And then it should just show me my grid permanently. And now on the top, it should show you some different options, and these are going to be options for creating sketches. And if you guys have any questions at any time, just let me know. All right, so on the top left here, again, I have create. And so this will allow me to create different sketches. So if I click down the drop-down arrow, I can see I can create a line, a rectangle, a circle, an arc, a polygon, an ellipse. So I'm just gonna click on rectangle since we're gonna start off with the rectangle. So I'm gonna click rectangle. And you actually have to click one of the 3 options here. So you can actually just click a random one. You can always change it on the left, sorry, on the right. So I'm just gonna click 2-point rectangle. And on the right here, you can see my sketch palette pops up. And this will allow me to kind of change some of the settings I have for my rectangle. So right now, mine is blue on the 2-point rectangle. But if I wanted to make mine a center rectangle, I could click on center rectangle. So this one down here. And the only difference is a 2-point rectangle is I create it like by putting 1 point there and 1 point there. But a center rectangle would be, I would click the center of where I want it to be, and then I just create it outward like that. So I'm just gonna click on that one. And then I can type in what I want my dimensions to be. So again, the width was 1.9. So I'm gonna type in 1.9 for the width. And then a little shortcut, if you wanna go from one box to the other, so from the width to length, I'm just gonna press tab and it just takes me to the other box. And that one was 3.1, I believe. I'll check again. But after that, I'm just gonna press enter. And it should show me my rectangle. So I just checked and the length is actually 4 inches. So you can easily change that. So right here, I have 3.1. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just click on where it says 3.1. So this little, the little arrow here, if I click on that, if I double click on it, I can now change it. So instead of 3.1, I'm gonna change it to 4. And then I'm just gonna press enter again and it makes it bigger.
All right, I need a timeout.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so I drew my initial rectangle and I want to change the size of it.
Yep.
And I can't get the, let's see, sketch dimension. I don't know. I can't get the, oh, there we go.
So-
Okay.
So does
Alright,
it show you these two numbers, the width and the length?
4.00. Okay, and the other one, I'll get the other one. Okay, and the other one was 1.9.
Yeah, 1.9.
And, okay, yep.
All right.
All right. How do you get the so there's sometimes I got one dimension line showing and not the other one. How do I,
You can, mine has a keyboard shortcut for D, but you could just go under Create, and the last setting here, it says Sketch Dimension. You see that?
Yep.
And if you click that, you can click one of the edges and set it. But mine is already constrained, so it won't allow me to.
Right. Okay.
All right. So now we have our 2D rectangle, and let's make it a actual 3D dimensional rectangle. So I'm going to click Finish Sketch. So right here at the right, under my sketch palette, I'm going to click Finish Sketch. And that takes me out of my sketch area. So now I can make this a 3D object. So again, if you look on the left, you have that sketch here. And if I can hide it and unhide it if I wanted to. So what we're going to do now is we're going to extrude this 2D object. And so extrusion just means we're going to give it a volume. We're going to make it a solid. So up here on the left, you're going to see this little block here with the arrow pointing upward. That's the extrude tool. And you can always click the down drop menu and click extrude. So extrude is going to be this first option, or you can click it here. So I'm going to click extrude. And mine automatically just gives me that rectangle, but you just click on the face. So you can just click on the face of that rectangle. And now it'll show up blue, and it'll again open up where you want your distance to be. So the height, and let me check. It says the height was 0.75, so 3/4. So I'm gonna just type in 0.75, and it'll now make my 2D object a 3D object.
Oh, 0.75, never mind.
And then you could just press enter. And on the right, where we have our extrusion here, it has a bunch of different settings, but you don't have to change any of those. So you could just press OK. And now we have a solid object. So do you guys have a solid object?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Good job.
Okay, so let's look at what's next. So we've done the first page. I'll hide my body. All right. So the next page is telling us to put the different holes. So we're actually going to be doing points, and I'll show you where those are. So it tells us where our holes are going to be in reference to 1 point. So right here is our 0, 0 coordinate. And if you guys have looked at graphs before, you know the graph always has an origin, which is coordinate 0, 0. So this is 0, 0, and everything is in reference to this point here at the top left. So we have this, this point, or this circle, this hole, is 2 inches away from 0, 0. So right here, and it's 1.216 inches downward. And this point here is 1.15 inches away from 0, 0. So let's go ahead and create these points. So we're actually just going to create we're going to just create 4 points, and we can mirror the other points. So if I were to cut this 2D rectangle right in half, we could see that these points and these points are just the exact opposite of each other. So this is 0.15 inches away from this edge. So this point is also going to be 0.15 inches away from this edge. So it'd kind of be redundant to do that twice. We could just kind of mirror it or just copy it to the other side. So we're going to do those first. So I'm going to unhide my body and I'm going to hide my pictures. And so now on the top of this rectangle, we're going to create another sketch. So I'm going to click Create Sketch again here at the top left. And then I'm going to click the top of this rectangle. So the top. And it should bring up the grid for you to create a sketch. And again, mine is on the top of the block. All right. So remember our points were in reference to this point over here at the top left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer our 2D drawing that we made before onto this sketch. For example, if I hid this body, it doesn't really show me anything. So I'm going to do something called a projection. So you can press P, that's the keyboard shortcut, or you could go into Create where it says Create at the top left. I'm just going to click on the drop-down menu. And this option where it says Project/Include, I'm going to go to the right and I'm going to click on where it says Project. So again, that's under Create, under Project/Include, and I'm going to click Project. And a projection just turns an object that you've already made and it just projects it and kind of copies it onto your sketch that you're using. So when I press Project, I'm going to just click on the top of my rectangle.
Sorry
Yes.
to interrupt you. We had one kid just join in now. Hi, Gideon.
Oh,
Hello.
Hmm.
Can you hear me, Gideon?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we just got the class started. Are you set up and ready with Fusion?
Oh, wait. Hold on. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I don't think I should be here. Hold on. I don't think I'll be able to join FTC this year. I'm sorry. I shouldn't.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I was confused as to what exactly this meeting was. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Gideon, no worries. Do you want to, not being an FTC is fine, but do you want to follow this just as Fusion 360 and get to learn designing?
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
all right. So we're creating a part right now. We're creating this. So right now we've just created a rectangle and we're about to add the holes.
Okay.
All right. So I think I had my projection opened. Yes.
From the beginning, can you just, I lost you for a bit. So after creating the rectangle, can you repeat from there?
Yeah, sure. So I'll go back in my design history. So we started out with a 2D sketch. So we just started out creating a rectangle.
Okay.
This is our 2D sketch. And then we extruded it. So we kind of gave it a volume. We made it a 3D object and we made it 0.75 inches tall.
That's the place where I lost you. It's kind of, you made it into a 3D object, right?
Yes.
So what exactly did you do and what were the dimensions?
All right, so I'll go back. So do you see extrude up here at the top left? It has this block and the arrow pointing upward. Yeah, so if you click that, mine automatically selects my rectangle, but you just click on the face of the rectangle.
Make it easier to find the holes.
And then it should show up blue and give you that arrow. And you can pull this up or you could type in how tall you want it to be. So mine is 0.75, so 3/4 of an inch.
Okay. Then.
And then I just pressed OK.
Yes, keep going.
All right. So now we've made our projection and let's add our points. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make a line since we said we're going to mirror all of our points. So I'm going to go up to create and under create, I'm going to click on the first option, which is a line. And you can also press L on your keyboard. There's a lot of shortcuts in Fusion, so you don't have to keep on clicking on things. But I'm going to press line. And I'm just going to create a random line. So it doesn't even have to be anywhere specific right now, as long as it's longer than our width. So I'm just going to click 1 point right here. And I want to make sure that my line is straight. So I'm just going to click it and click off here. So we want it to be perpendicular to one of the lines on the rectangle. All right, so we have our line here. And now we want our line to be in the center here so we can mirror our objects, our circles, when we're done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under constraints. So up here we see this box with constraints. So constraints are just ways to kind of bound your object and kind of restrict your sketches to certain things. So if I go under constraints, I can see I can make something horizontal and vertical, coincident, tangent, parallel, perpendicular. So this is where all of our geometries, all of our kind of geometry functions are. So the only one I'm going to click is I'm going to click on coincident, and that just means I'm going to make two things be on the same kind of line. So I'm going to click on the second option, coincident, and I'm going to first click on my line here that I just made, and I'm going to click on this center dot. So we made our rectangle a center rectangle, so I'm just going to click on here. And now it moves my line and bounds it to this line. So even if I wanted to move this line, I can't, because I can only move it up and down because it's kind of bounded to this point.
Middle, doesn't it?
Did someone say something? All right, so we have our line bounded. Let's go ahead and make our first point. So we had 4 different points. And so I'm just gonna create 4 random points. So I'm gonna go under create, and where it says create, I'm gonna go all the way down to where it says point. And I'm gonna click on point. So for right now, I'm just gonna make 4 random points. I'm not gonna give them any specific area. And we're gonna bound those later. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna click and make our first point, and then I'll just do another point. And again, these are just random, so they don't have to be anywhere. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'll just press escape. So now we have 4 random points. And I hope I'm not going too fast. Let me know if you guys were able to get
Is
your
there a
4
way to
points.
center it on the grid?
Center
The
what?
whole object?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is there a way to center the whole object in the grid?
The block that I've made?
Yeah, the whole 3D.
Yeah, there's an align tool in Solid that you can make objects centered. So did you not create a center rectangle?
Yeah, it wasn't centered.
Okay,
I was making dinner when it was made.
no problem. I'll go back. All right, so you have something like, let's just say,
Yeah, it's just off a bit.
yeah.
It needs to be centered.
All right, so something like this. So what I'm gonna do is under modify, there should be an option for align. It's far down, it says align. I'm gonna click align. And also make sure your origin is turned on with the 3 planes. So I'm just gonna look on the bottom of my part. And I'm first gonna hover over the bottom, and I'm gonna click on the center of the rectangle. And then I'm just gonna click, and I'm just gonna actually go on my bottom view. I'm just gonna click on the center of the origin.
I see.
And then it moves it.
Oh, wrong plane. I get it now.
All right. So I think we just finished creating our 4 random points. So let's go ahead and actually make these points have the same, be the same place that they are in the drawing. So our first point was and I'm looking at the PDF. So 0.15 away from this left side for both the width and the height. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under create, and under create it says sketch dimension. So that's the last option, and you can always press D. It's a lot faster. So I'm just going to click on that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first click on this left edge that we have here of our rectangle. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to click on my point here. So my first point. And again, if you just made random points, which you were, I'm just click on one of the points. And now, well, it didn't do that for me. Sorry. Sorry, it's kind of acting up. All right, sorry about that. I don't know why it's not giving me the option. All right, I don't know. Give me a second. I don't think I projected my object.
This.
All right, I'm gonna go back. I'm not sure why it's not giving me the option for a sketch. I'm just gonna remake that sketch. Sorry about that. Is it when you guys press dimension and you click on the edge and the point, does it give you an option to type in a number?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to do. I'm not sure why it's not doing that on mine. All right, I'm just gonna make a line.
How come we're not just adding holes?
Hmm?
How come we're not just like, there's a hole tool, isn't there?
Yes, there is. That's in the solid. So we create points first, and then you can make holes from those points, and you can like give it the diameter or whatever you wanted to.
I see.
All right, sorry about that. I don't know why I was doing that. All right, so it shows, does this show this for you guys? When you press D or dimension and you click one of the points?
I'm still trying to add a point.
So I'll go back. And if it's giving you the same problem I had, I just created a line on this edge and I just made it on this edge. All right, so when I do sketch dimension and I click on this edge and one of the points, it gives me a little option here, and I'll just click on it, and then it gives me just a random number. And so that's just the how many inches it is away from that line. Isn't showing that for you guys?
Something like that.
Okay. Yeah, let me know if you have any problems. All right, so now I can put however far away I want this point to be from that line. So it was 0.15 inches, so I'm just going to type in 0.15. And then it moves that 0.15 inches from that line.
What tool was that?
Dimension. So if you
Yeah,
go
yeah, I
under
hit D,
create,
but it didn't give me
it's
the
the
same.
last option. Yeah.
So I hit D and I selected the corner.
Yeah, and you might be able to do it with the point too. So like that. Yeah, you can do it with the point at the top right here.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
So I just hit D again. Like I hit D and then I click on the point, but nothing happens. Ah, there we go. I had
So you have to click on, yeah, both points. So the point at the top left and one of your random points.
And then what was the dimension?
0.15, so 0.15 inches away from that point.
Oh, it did it at a diagonal.
Yeah, you can orient it when you do that.
Hey, Logan, come on.
Yeah, so I'll just do it from this point. So you can do it this way. So we're just going to do it from the top first. So just 0.15 and then enter. And then it moves it 0.15 inches away from that point. From
There we go.
Yeah, so I'm just going to press D again or hit dimension. And I'm just going to hit this point again and this point. But this time I'm going to do it this way. So on my left. And this is also 0.15. So I'm just going to type in 0.15. And then it moves that object right here.
I get it now.
Yeah.
D. And now, oh, D. Come on.
So the next point that's further down is also 0.15 inches away right here. So we could dimension it or we could just use one of our constraints. So I'm going to use one of the constraints. I'm going to click constraint and I'm going to click on the first option that says horizontal/vertical. So that just makes two things horizontal and vertical to each other. So I'm going to click on that. And since we've already bounded this and we've already made this a constraint, we can just click on this point and again, just one of your random points. And it'll make that in line with this point.
It's saying that it would create a constrained, over-constrained dimension.
So with the second point?
Yeah, with the second point.
So did you dimension it or you use the horizontal/vertical?
I hit the D key.
Yeah, so we use one of the constraints. So when you click under constraint, it shows you horizontal/vertical. Did you click that?
No, I didn't. That's why.
Okay. Yeah. So if you click this and then click on the point that we already constrained and another point, it should make it vertical to each other. All right. So this point is let me look at it again, 1.75 inches down from this point. So we can also dimension this point, but for just how far down it is. So I'm going to press D or hit dimension, and I'm going to click on this point here at the top left, and the point that we just made vertical. So I'm just going to click on those two, and I'm going to drag it out here to the left, and I'm going to click on it, and it should give me just a random weird number. And now I can type in the number I actually want it to be. So I'm going to type in 1.75 since that's what it was. And I'll just hit enter and it'll move that point down. All right, were you guys able to get those 2 points constrained?
No.
No?
When I tried to do the horizontal line, it moved my line all the way to the top.
Oh, okay. So it does it based on which one is closer. So you might have to, if you go under modify, you might have to move the point first. And like this point, if I were to make it horizontal and horizontal and vertical to this point, it'll make it horizontal. So you might have to move that point closer to being vertical than horizontal.
I see.
And then you have to make it horizontal. Yeah, I wish those were two separate options.
I can't get the dimension tool to do the second point. I got it. It's
Mhm.
directly below the original point. So it's
Okay,
0.15
so you got
on the left. And then I select sketch dimension and
Yeah.
I click the left point up
the
in
top,
the,
yeah, the point at the top left, and
Right.
just the point that you made vertical.
and then I try to click on this
Yeah.
and just like nothing really happens.
So when you click, does it show you this? What it's showing me?
Well, it shows me that, but inside instead of outside.
Yeah, so you could just move your mouse and it'll move it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
Oh.
yeah, I'm just moving mine outward so I can see the
Oh,
numbers.
all right. Yeah. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's working.
So if you click on
Okay.
that and you could just type in the number, it was
What's it?
1.75 inches, and then just press enter.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Are we good? All right, so the next point was 1.15 or yeah, 1.15 inches away from this point, so this way, so from the width. So I'm just gonna type D, and I'm gonna click on, again, the point at the top left, and just one of my other random points that I made, and it'll bring up this box, and I'm just gonna move it up so I can see the numbers, and I'll click it, and it'll give me a random number, and I'm gonna type in 1.15, so just 1.15. All right, so now we're gonna constrain it the other way. So I'm gonna press D again, or dimension. I'm gonna click on this point again, and I'm gonna click on the point here at the top left again. And this time I'm gonna do it this way, so on the left here. So how far down it is. And I'm just gonna click. And this was 0.3 inches downward. So I'll type in 0.3. And I'll just press enter. And so yeah, 0.3. All right, so we have,
do one like it's only let me do it on the x-axis. Anytime I try and do it on the y, it's saying I need to create a constrained. It's beyond the constraints or something.
okay, so yeah, if you do it the same way twice, it's gonna say it's gonna be over constrained. So you have to do it two different ways. So was your point already constrained? Which way did you say?
It's already constrained on the x, and I'm trying to constrain it on the y.
All right, so did you select the 2 points again and move it to the left?
Now, when you say select the 2 points, are you saying select them simultaneously? Like shift?
Yeah, so when you click D and hit dimension, you can click the point that you're trying to constrain and this point here at the top left. It doesn't matter which order, but then it'll give you the option of moving the little bar with the dimension.
Yeah, hit D, and then I click that point on the left. Ah, there we go.
All right, you got it?
Yeah, I got it. What was the dimension?
Okay.
0.15?
Yeah, 1.15
1.15.
for, yeah, the width.
And what's the length?
0.3, so it's 0.3 inches
That's
down.
okay,
So,
0.3.
yeah.
There we go.
All right. So I started a new sketch, so I'll just create that line that we did earlier.
Now we're in business.
Yeah. All right. So this next point is directly in the center. So what we can do is we can also make that coincident to this line. So I'm going to go under constraints, and where it says coincident, I'm just going to click coincident. It's the second option. And I'm just going to click on our last point, our fourth point, and I'm going to click on the line that we have that's in the center. So if I click on it, it should move it directly to the middle.
Coincident.
And now we need to dimension it from the length, how far down it is, again, in reference to the point at the top left. And so it's 1.216 inches downward. So this point here, 1.216. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit D, or dimension, and I'm gonna click on the point here at the top left, and I'm gonna click the point that we have here in the middle. And we're gonna do it again, the side, so you might have to stretch it out all the way to the left so you can see the numbers. And so what mine is saying is it's over constrained. So if your dot right here has something above it, like mine does, that means you have a constraint there already. So I'm just gonna delete that so we can change it. But I don't think you guys should have that.
What did you use to delete it? Did you just hit the delete key? Or?
Yeah, I just hit delete on my keyboard.
Okay.
You could probably right click it and hit delete somewhere there too. So I'm just gonna move this all the way out to the left, and I'm gonna click it. Mine says 1.75, but we're gonna change that to 1.216, and it should move it up. So slightly below the center of the part. All right, were you guys able to get that? All right. So now we have to add the points on the other side, but again, it'd just be a lot of work to redo what we just did here on the left. So fortunately, there is a mirror tool that we can use. So under create, and it's actually at the top here, it's the two triangles. So under create, we can click mirror, and it's right here on really far down, and I'm just gonna click mirror. So when I hit mirror on the right, it gives me my options. So objects and mirror line. So it should highlight blue for objects, and those are our objects that we want to mirror. So I'm going to click on all four of our points that we've made. So this one, this one, this one, and this one.
Do you click or shift click?
No, I just clicked it.
Okay.
And then if I look on my right here, the dialog box that it opens up, I'm going to click on the second box. So where it says select for mirror line. So I'm going to click on that, and that's going to highlight blue. And the mirror line is what we want to switch it around to. So what we want to mirror it to. And I'm just going to click on the line that we've made here in the center. And it should just mirror those points onto the right. And I'll click OK. And actually looking back now, you don't have to mirror this point in the center. You just have to do the other three.
Okay. Yeah, that worked.
This way down.
No. Oh,
It's supposed to be there, see?
All right.
you need to have a point in the middle.
And I forgot to mention this earlier, but another thing is you should probably save your work periodically. So I'm just going to save it. And save is up here at the top left. And you can name your project. So I'll just name it something, I don't know, first part. And it doesn't automatically save. So you should save it like every so often when you do something.
Okay.
It does have a recovery though. So if you like your computer crashed if you open it back up, it should recover most of your work, but it's always good to save. So I'm gonna click Finish Sketch, and your points might have gone away. So I'm just gonna turn on my sketches here at the left, and it should show me my points again. But again, they're 2D points. So if I look on my pictures again, it tells us what we can make our holes for. So it gives us like the specific thread numbers to make our points. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hide those, and I'm gonna go up here for the top left where it says create, and it's actually at the top. We're gonna click on hole. So down here where it says hole. So when I click on hole, again, it'll bring the dialog box at the top left here. And I'm just gonna click on all of the points that we've made. So for right now, I'm just gonna do the holes, they're just gonna be holes. They're not gonna be actual, they're not gonna be tapped. So they're not gonna be able to like fit a screw. So here on the right, it gives me the option to change the diameter of the hole. So right now mine says 1.1, and it's this option. So I'm gonna change that to, I don't remember what it was. Oh yeah, it was tapped. So we're just gonna do a random number for now. We'll do 0.25. That might be too big, sorry. Let's try 0.125. And the instructions do say that this is a tapped hole, so if you wanted to, you could change the options here and make it tapped. That might be a little too advanced. So if you were to make it tapped, it would look like that. So it could fit an actual screw. But I'm just gonna make mine a simple hole. With a diameter of 0.125.
Well, that works.
And I'll press OK.
I'm excited that ours looks just like yours.
Yay. Oh, and now looking at it, I forgot to do the center hole. So
We
the
didn't.
good thing with Fusion is that you can go back in design history and change a bunch of stuff. So like if I wanted to change the width of this rectangle, I could go back and it'll update it. So what I'm going to do is, if you look on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a bunch of these little icons. So we're going to click on the last one. So the last one here that says hole, I'm just going to right click it and click edit feature. And when I click edit feature, now I can go back, and if I wanted to change the diameter of our hole, we could change that, or we could add another hole. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to add another hole. So all we have to do is just click on that center point that I forgot to click on, and it'll add it to what it's making a hole from.
All right, well,
And you can also change like the length of the hole, how deep it goes in, but we just wanted to go through. Yes?
What was that bottom part you clicked on? Like we had.
So I clicked on the bottom here. Do you see this hole icon?
Hold on, the zoom interface is in the way.
Oh, is it?
That's why I didn't see it.
Okay.
Hold on. All right, now show me what you were clicking on. I can see it now.
Yeah. So the little hole icon, if you right click on it, it gives you a bunch of options. We're going to click edit feature to go back and change some of the settings.
Yeah, I just clicked on it. Edit feature.
And then I just clicked on the middle point. All right. So let's see what's next. So 1, 2, and now we're on our last one. All right. So this is where the actual part starts to look similar to what they have here. So now we're going to create all of these geometries and that they have here. So I'm going to actually hide my first two pictures, and I'm going to move this one a little closer. All right. So we're gonna first make a sketch to make this inner design that they have. So I'm gonna click Create Sketch, and I'm gonna click the top of our part again. So just the top of the block. And while you guys do that, give me a second. I'm gonna turn on my lights.
We just have 10 more minutes of class AE. Do you think we'll be able to do?
If we rush, yeah.
Just go through real quick and we'll figure the rest out.
All right, yeah, sure. So once we do that, I'm gonna hit P for project, and I'm gonna click the top of this object again, and it'll kind of show up red. So I'll click on this, and I'll press OK or just press Enter. And now it should show up purple, a bunch of the points. So what we're gonna do first is we're going to create this geometry. So this is just a circle, a bigger circle than what's there. So this circle, it says it has a radius of 3.13, and it says 2x. So that means this one also has a radius of 3.13. So what we can also do is we can do the exact same thing that we did before. We can just create our geometry on the one side, the left side, and we could just mirror it over. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go up to create where it says line. I'm gonna click on line, and I'll just make a line straight into the middle of the part, or you could do what we did earlier and make a line outside like that, somewhere random, and then go under constraint and where it says coincident, and click on the line and click on the center point right here, and it should bring it there. So we have that center line again. So again, this circle has a radius of 3.313, and that's the center point of the circle is the same point as our two holes. So this hole and this hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press C for circle, or you could go up here to create and click on circle. And I'm going to make a center diameter circle. So if you hit C, that's the default. It's going to be a center diameter circle. So it'll be from the center outward, kind of like our rectangle. So once I do that, I'm going to click on the hole that we have here, the center of the hole that we have here, and I'm going to click on it. And it'll now give me an option to type in numbers. So it has a radius of 0.313. So radius, again, is half of the diameter. So I don't actually have to do the math in my head if you didn't want to. So you could just type in 0.313. And since it's radius, we could do times. And I just did shift and I hit 8, which is the little star, which is times, means times. And then I could put 2 times 2. And if you didn't want to type that, you could just type in, what's the number? 0.626. So it has a diameter of 0.626.
Okay.
All right. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to make an offset. So an offset just kind of scales your object, your sketch inward or outward. And I'll show you what that means. So it has a 0.3 typical offset. So what I'm going to do is under modify, I'm going to go under modify and click offset, or you can press O, keyboard shortcut. And when I do that, I'm going to click the outer part of, so the actual rectangle. So if I hover over the rectangle, it'll show up blue. I'm going to click on that. And as you can see, it gives us the option to offset it. So it's kind of proportionally scaling the object inward or outward. So we want an offset of 0.3 typical. So we're going to type in minus 0.3, and it gives us that offset. And I'll just press enter or OK. All right. So we can see it has curves here on the edges, but we can add that using another tool later. We just want to get the basic geometry. So next, we want to, it here has 2 times 45 degrees. So we have a 45-degree angle. So first, let's make this circle, so this point. So it says it has a radius of 0.188. So we're going to do that first. So I'm going to go onto this point. I'm going to press C for circle again. And I'm going to click on the center of this point here, the one that's in the middle. And I'm going to type in 0.188 times 2. And I'll give you the number that it is. It's 0.376. So you can just type in 0.376.
Okay.
All right. So next, we're gonna create our 45-degree angles for this point. So to do that, we will create our 2 lines. Actually, we'll just create the 1 line. So first I'm gonna go under create and I'm gonna hit line, or you could just press L. And now I'm going to just click on a random point here on the bottom edge, and I'm going to click here and then just click out somewhere random. So it doesn't really matter. So I could just go like that. All right. So, and actually what we should have done is we should have done it from the point first. So I'm going to delete the line that we just made. It'd just be easier to do it from the point. So I'll just delete that. And what we'll do instead is we'll make 2 points. So I'm going to go up to create and I'm going to click on point. So when I do that, I'm just going to click first the top part of this circle. So right here. So it should make a little cross when you do that. So I'll click on the top part of the circle and I'll make another point that'll just be somewhere random, but it's still on the middle line. So now we've added our 2 points, one here and just a random one here, but still on the middle line. And so what I'll do is I'll hit D for dimension and I'll click on this point and this point here at the top. And I'll drag that out. And now I'm going to type in, it had a 0.3 offset, so I'm typing 0.3. And it should move my point up like that. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add the little lines we have here. So to do that, I will create a line. So I'll go up to create and press line. And I'm just going to create a random line at first. So I'll just make a line like this, just anywhere in space. And it doesn't matter how long your line is. So next I'm going to go under constraint and I'm going to press tangent. So now I'm going to make this line tangent to the circle, and tangent just means that it's only touching 1 point on the circle. So to make it tangent, I'll click on the line and then I'll click on the circle. So now this is tangent to the circle. So it's only touching at 1 point. And if we look at it again, it's at a 45-degree angle. So we're going to make this line 45 degrees in reference to the bottom of the part. So to do that, I'm going to click D for dimension, or you could go up here and I'll click on the line and I'll click on anywhere. You could click on this or you could click on the bottom one. So I'm just going to click on this. And when you do that, it should give you an option to add an angle. And I'm just going to put mine here. So it said 45 degrees. So I just typed 45 and I pressed enter. And now my line is 45 degrees in reference to this bottom line. And let me know if you guys were able to get that far. I know I'm going a little fast. All right, so next, we're gonna wanna offset this line. Since we have a typical offset of 0.3, so that means everything is 0.3 away from its, I guess, other edge. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go up to modify, and under modify, we have our offset, or you can press O. So I'm gonna click offset. And then I'm gonna click on the line that we just constrained, and it'll show up another red line, which is the one that we're offsetting. And I will just do minus 0.3. And I'll hit enter. So we have most of our lines, but it is kind of giving us a couple of lines that we don't want. So like this line, and we don't want those if we're gonna mirror. So what we could do, and this is kind of optional, but what we could do is go up here to modify, and under modify we have trim or T, and we could just take away those edges that we don't want. So like this edge, we don't want that, that. And it doesn't matter if it turns blue since we already offsetted it. So all those edges, actually not that one. So we want this edge. So we just want these two. All right, so now we have our clean edges. We've kind of taken the other ones away. We are going to mirror them. So I'm gonna go up to create, and I'm gonna go to mirror. I'm gonna click mirror. And then I'm just gonna mirror these two lines that we have. So this one and this one. And so on the right, I'm gonna click on mirror line, and that's gonna be the middle line. And I'm just gonna click on the middle. And then I'll just press OK.
Cool.
All right. So another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this line a little bit. I know I deleted it earlier, but it was a little weird. So I'm going to go under modify, and the third option here says extend. So I'm going to click extend. And with extend, if I look at this, hover over this line, it gives us a red line, and I'm just going to click on that line. I'm going to click on that one and then this one. So now I've kind of extended my two lines, and I'll just hit escape to exit out of that. All right. So I think we have most of our geometry. I think we have everything, except we didn't mirror this circle. So I'm just going to go up and click mirror. So up under create, I'm going to hit mirror, and I'm going to mirror this circle onto this side. So I'm going to click on this circle, and then I'm going to move over to the right, and I'm going to go under mirror line. I'm going to click this, and then I'm going to click on the center line. And then I'll hit OK. And now we have everything that we need to extrude and create the part. So now I'll click Finish Sketch. And next we need to extrude our sketch downward. So as well as extrude can make material, and it can also take it away. So let's see, if we look over here, it goes down 0.5 inches, so half an inch. So we're gonna go up to create, and where it says extrude, I'm gonna hit extrude. And oh, I see something that we forgot. So I'm gonna cancel. We forgot to extend some of our points. So I'm gonna go back in our sketch, and you can do Control Z, or you could just go at the bottom here and click on the sketch and click Edit Sketch. So I forgot to extend these two lines. So I'm going to go under modify and the third option, extend. And I'm going to look at this line here. And when it shows up red, I'll just click it. And then also this line where we want it downward. So this line, we want to extend all of our 4 lines. So this line and then also this line. And then I'll click finish sketch again. So now we have our lines extended. So now I'll click extrude, and now we can extrude. So we want to extrude, let's see, we want to extrude everything in here and this part. So we want to extrude, I'm going to select them, I'm going to click this, 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 and you might have to zoom in to get the little small faces. So we want to extrude all of that. So we want to extrude this triangle and then these 2 shapes that we have here. All right. So once we select them, I'm just going to rotate so I can see it going down. And you can move it, but it might not be as accurate. So you could just type in. So I'm going to type in -0.5, so ½ an inch downward. And then I'll just click OK. All right. So do you guys have this yet?
Ha! We've been too busy watching.
Oh,
That's okay. Well, you were going
sorry
fast.
about that. I'm going a little
But
fast.
that's okay. We got it. We got the gist of it.
All right. So we're basically done. The only thing we need to add are fillets. So fillets are just, you're giving a radius to an edge. So we have a fillet here. We have, I think it says 13 fillets with a radius of 0.195. So before we do that, let's actually first give our radius to this top edge. So this edge has a radius of 0.188. So let's do that first. So to add a fillet, I'm going to go under modify and I'm going to click fillet. So it's the second option. And it's just curving an edge. So if we wanted to actually cut this out, it should be really, really sharp and we might cut our fingers. So fillets just kind of smooth things out and give it a curve, a nice radius. So I'm going to rotate and I'm going to click this top edge and I'm going to give it the radius, it's 0.188. And I'll just hit enter. So now we have that top radius and it says we have 13 edges with a radius of 0.195. So we have 13 edges. So we'll just count. So I'm going to click fillet again, or you can press F. So it's under modify. And I'm going to select all of the edges that I want. So it says 13. So this one, not the face. These 2. I'm pretty sure these are one of the edges. You might have to rotate to see all of them. So how many do I have right now? 7. So we have 7. And I think all the corners are filleted. So we'll do this one, and you can also select edges through the object, which is kind of cool. All right, we have 11. And let's see. All right. These 2, this one, and this one. All right, now we have our 13. So all of these edges. And I'll give you guys a second to select them. All right, so it says it wants to give them a radius of 0.195. So I'll type in 0.195. And now it gives all of those edges a curve. So it looks like the part now, and I think that we are done. Yeah, we're done. It does show that it has a chamfer, and the chamfer is just kind of, I want to say, giving an edge, another edge. It kind of flattens it out. So we can do that, a really small chamfer. So to do that, if you go up to modify, under modify, it's the third option, so chamfer. And it's kind of like a fillet, but instead of curving, it flattens an edge out. So I'm going to click chamfer. And you don't have to do this since the 2D drawing technically didn't say we should, but we'll do it anyway. So to chamfer, I'll just click on this edge, this edge, this edge, so the entire exterior. And we could do the sides too.
And for reference, in 3D printing, you want to chamfer instead of fillet pretty much all the time.
With 3D printing? Yeah, I guess so.
Well, that when it comes to the tops and bottoms of your model, you want to chamfer. But the curve in the center, that's fine. That's just, you can fillet that all day. That's not going to matter.
Yeah. Chamfers are easier to print too, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, the fillet is not going to, as the first few layers curve upwards, they're not going to print properly.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be above the build plate, but extended out too far. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas a fillet is just a perfect, a nice 45-degree angle. The printer will have no trouble with that.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to type in for a distance. We'll do a really small number. So let's try like 0.01 works. So that looks kind of right. So we'll type in 0.01. So a really small chamfer. And I'll just click OK. And yeah, we're pretty much done. So I'll save my work. And yeah, I think we got everything. And again, yeah, if you wanted to manufacture this part, you could go under manufacture in Fusion and create a bunch of toolpaths and cuts, or 3D print it. You can also do that in Fusion. And yeah.
Nice. So you guys are always using this in FTC to manufacture parts?
Yeah, in FRC, yeah, most of our
FRC.
robot is cut out at our shop. And even like if we don't cut out something, it's always good to kind of CAD a part, or even just like import something and kind of see how it looks and look at the dimensions and stuff before we actually like buy it or use it. And there's a tool in Fusion that's really useful to use, especially like if you're in FRC or FTC. You can import like screws or even like linear actuators and a bunch of different devices that have already been modeled. It's under insert, so it's insert McMaster car. So there's a website where they have a bunch of different screws and stuff.
Yeah, McMaster's pretty nice. You can download the models for all their parts.
Yeah, you can even, I've seen people like 3D print them, like print screws and nuts and screw them together.
On your FRC team, do you have people whose job it is to create these drawings, like that whole drawing of the robot?
Yeah, that's actually the department I'm in, CAD. So that's all we do. We design and then cut out the parts on the CNC machine.
So you after you model it, then you actually cut them out too.
Yeah.
Cool.
In FTC robot, I think they use mostly 3D printing, but this will be learning this for them will be very helpful.
Yeah, this is nice. Dan, what do you usually use to model your stuff
I use OpenSCAD, and for more organic shapes, like if I want to do like a face or like a cutout for like a handle where you've got little rigid ribs that are meant for your fingers or something like that, I'd use Blender. But 99% of the time, I'm using OpenSCAD.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Fusion has a sculpting tool like this that you can create kind of, like you said, organic shapes. It's pretty good if you wanted to kind of like that. It's okay. It's not as good as Blender though. Blender's really advanced.
Yeah, with Blender, you can just use the sculpt tool and just sculpt like some nice organic looking ridges in like 5 minutes that will feel nice on your fingers,
Yeah. I don't know. I've played around with Blender a
stuff.
little bit. Do you know 3ds Max?
Yes,
I use that,
3ds
but
Max.
that's not really the same. It's not really sculpting. It's more of using faces, but you can like smooth them out.
Yeah, Blender's great, especially for producing renders. I know a lot of people that will export their models from Fusion and then use Blender to make the actual final render.
Yeah. And they have some really good animation too.
Oh yeah. Well, you can attach pivot points and things like that and bones and have you can actually do physics simulations with your parts in Blender.
Yeah. Some people have like made movies with Blender.
Yeah.
Animated movies.
You know that movie with all the abominable snowmen that came out a few years ago?
Yeah.
That was all done in Blender. It was 100% Blender.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Feature-length film. And
That's pretty
Pixar
cool.
now donates like $30 million a year to the Blender Foundation because Pixar uses Blender extensively.
Yeah, it's a really good software.
Yeah, remember when Tangled came out and they were all bragging about the hair animation and how cool it was? That
Yeah.
was Blender. And that code that generated that hair is now in Blender.
That's really cool.
Yeah, Pixar helped develop it. Let me tell you something. You want to tax your CPU? Turn on hair simulation. You'll be there all day just waiting for it to render, and then you'll just get one frame.
Yeah.
I've tried it. You need some serious processing power to do hair.
Oh yeah, I bet.
But water is surprisingly simple. Like if you want to do like a fluid simulation, that actually isn't too bad. I thought it would be, really CPU intensive, but it's actually not. It's
Water?
the hair.
Yeah, with the hair, you have to do like each of the little strands. Like I can imagine that'll take forever.
Yeah, well, there's a whole workflow associated with it. You make a surface and you turn it into hair, and then you tell it how many little follicles you want.
Mm-hmm.
And then what most people do is they'll say, all right, I only want like 3 follicles. And then they crank it up right before their final render. Because it's just that so computationally intensive.
Yeah, Fusion has a rendering tool. It's okay. It's not that advanced. You can do like some colors and make things light up and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's about it though, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Yeah. You can insert like
that's not so bad.
decals and stuff.
I mean, that's good enough for,
Yeah, it's good enough for like part modeling and stuff like this.
Yeah, you could import this model into Blender and fill it with water and then have it slash around. It's a fun little thing to do. Or just have water fall on it. Like you turn the default cube into water, and then you just turn on the physics simulation, and it just drops onto your model, and you can see how water flows on it. It's kind of a neat trick. It's a very simple process too.
Mm.
Yeah, you just take the default cube, raise it up on the z-axis, turn it into a fluid, and then import your model underneath it, and then let it render for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's interesting. Blender has a
When it's
lot
done,
of
you can just
neat
watch it,
features.
yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So what's your plan for the upcoming session, Ayid? So will it be like more complex designing or different features you will explain, or what's the plan?
I don't know. I'm open to suggestions. I mean, we could do stuff like this every class. every time. We can model a part.
If you can look up specifically FTC robot parts and then
Mhm.
how to design those for the kids, that'll be nice.
Okay,
Kids
yeah,
have, like,
there's a
screws and gears.
website. I haven't looked too much into it, but there's like Fusion. I think there are courses specifically for FRC and FTC with like stuff that you can do to prepare.
Okay.